Hui, it's louisity again, and for this video, I'm gonna be doing, one of those usual recommending books that I do, and honestly it is because I've been getting into this K-pop idol group a lot, I am standing, I am super supporting, raving, gushing, you name it, you name the word. So I'm going to be recommending books to some NCT members. Hooray! So I decided to pick 5 for today, or rather for this video. Basically, this is just based on the information that I read, the videos that I watch, and the things that I hear. And I'm hoping that they would like these recommendations. If I were given an opportunity to actually talk to them about these recommendations, or if ever they see this video, who knows what. So yeah, hopefully they enjoy, and if not, then Okay, so yes, before I begin, yes, I've been getting into NCT a lot. NCT 2020 is an awesome project. Yes, Resonance. Yep. So while I'm on that fever, I thought, you know what? Maybe I should start doing this project /thing. So, let's begin. So the first member that I'm going to be talking about and that I will be recommending books to would be Haechan, or also known as Donghyuk. Now Donghyuk is his real name, and Haechan is kind of like his screen name. So Haechan means full sun. So what I'm getting out of Haechan based on the videos that I'm watching is that he is sassy and quite frank, and to me it seems like he is gonna be into reading stories that have some drama in them. So NCT fans, maybe NCTzen, Seasonies, maybe you kind of know why I'm kind of thinking this way. But anyway, let's proceed with the book recommendations. I'm going to be recommending Haechan, a duology, which is the, I'm not sure exactly the title though, but of the duology itself, I should say. I'm going to be recommending Something Borrowed and Something Blue, both written, of course, by Emily Giffen. Now, Something Borrowed has already been turned into a movie, and we all know that the main character's name is Rachel, and she kind of tricked her best friend by, dating her best friend's boyfriend. So, cheating. Yeah. But I think for me personally, because that kind of made me what are you doing? And if that is something that you're looking for in a reading experience, just simply let out, emotions and just make you mad because you feel like the story itself is just giving you that vibe because that's what it portrays. It vividly did. That was stellar. And the sequel, Something Borrowed, we get to learn more about Dorsey and her situation. Yeah, there's a little bit of a twist, quote-unquote twist, in Something Borrowed. So we get to learn a little bit more about Dorsey when you read Something Blue. And I think that Haechan will be enjoying it, and he can kind of watch the movie afterwards. Up next is Tale. Now Tale is giving me these vibes of being heartwarming, a caring brother, calm, and at the same time he can be funny. So I kind of want to recommend him a book that is a mixture of those, lighthearted, fun, yet can lean to some thing that is serious. And I'm going to be recommending Tale, Will Grayson by David Leviathan and John Green. Now this follows the story of 2 different people. Both of them have the name Will Grayson. Now Will Grayson is kind of dealing with wanting a girl, and at the same time thinking about how he can be supportive for his best friend. And the other Will Grayson is dealing with depression and anxiety. He's also queer or gay, I believe. and wanting to really search for something that is going to satisfy his life. And they met in some sort of an unpredictable circumstance, but yeah, that's how pretty much the gist of it. And I kind of like how this book talked about relationships and valuing people. That's what I got, and I think that Tail is gonna enjoy this. Actually, I'm also thinking about giving this to Johnny because he's from the Metro Chicago area, but I have something else for Johnny, so stay tuned as you watch this video. And there's another one that I'd like to recommend because I'm just gonna squeeze this in, with his Belle costume, and I'm gonna be recommending Beastly by Alex Flynn. Now, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so that's why I kind of thought about it when I called about his Belle costume. So yeah, pretty much the main character, the main guy is a rude boy, and he gotta learn his lesson. But it was very fun. I read it almost a decade ago, and it was a very fun, beautiful Beauty and the Beast retelling. I think it's one of the few ones that I've read and I fortunately enjoyed. So hopefully Tail's gonna enjoy Beastly by Alex Flynn and Will Grayson by David Readathon and John Green. Up next is 10 now. 10 happens to be one of my favorites. He is one of my, I would call bias wrecking balls. Kind of like my bias already, I would say. And I know he could be quite, sassy and savage. But the one vibe that I'm getting a lot from 10 is that he is artistic and has some sense of serenity. I mean, he likes to draw, so I would like to recommend 2 books to him that kind of give me, some artistic vibes or has anything to do with art. So we have here The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Now, the story about how one wanted to be a vegetarian and thought of wanting to become a plant, the journey of it. I think that it is a masterpiece. It was artistically done and written, and I think it's a story that he would be intrigued, and I just think that he's gonna think that there's some artistic vibes about it. So, and yeah, there's some flowers, some orchids. I hope he gets to have this exact copy, with this cover, I should say. And oh, by the way, again, a little trigger warnings because there's a part here that dealt with some animal cruelty. So yeah, just have to be careful. It wasn't a part where she was having dreams when she saw that, so I don't really recall anything among the italicized ones that was really critical to the story. Perhaps maybe you can skip it, or I believe it's in page, this copy that I'm holding, I think it's around page 40 something, I believe. I'm just picking up right around around page 42. There, I looked it up on the spot. So yeah, and also, if he wants to kind of read a story about, let's say, somebody who wants to get into film or anything in the creatives, I would recommend him Love, Hate, and Other Filters by Samira Ahmed. Now, this follows the story of a girl who, wanted to go to New York and pursue the degree that she wants, but her parents kind of just wants her to stay in Chicago, and then something happens that, caused, Islamophobia and basically prejudices against, her religion. And that's how kind of things went, and how how the story goes, and the challenges that she had to deal with later on in order for her to be able to go to her preferred college. And here's the thing, this is the second book that is set in the Metro Chicago area, although kind of in the western part. It's set in Batavia, Illinois, so that is kind of far from Chicago, the Chicago city itself. But yeah, Metro Chicago, Johnny. Speaking of Johnny, he is the next one, and from what I'm getting from Johnny is that he's very adventurous, he's very spontaneous, you know, just kind of like the intro that he did with JCC, Johnny's Communication Center. So I decided to recommend him 3 books that are set in 3 different places around the world, because he kind of want to know more about the world, because it is more fun. Johnny said that, okay? He said that in her introduction video for Johnny's Communication Center. So, kind of having a little bit of a list there. But anyway, yeah, aside from those 2 books that I mentioned that are set like in the Metro Chicago area, I'm going to be recommending him first a book written by a Filipino author, which is called Bone Talk by Candy Gourlay. Now, I think you've seen this book in some of my other videos if you've been watching my videos, you know, for probably some time already. Now this book follows a story about some cod who lives in one of the indigenous tribes, like in the Philippines, in the mountains, and he gets to meet his brother who grew up in a different area, who grew up in the plains. He actually, I remember from what I've read, he also brought an American, because this was like set during the American colonization. Just a little, you know, trivia for you folks. Yes, we were under the United States, and in 1935, the Philippines became a commonwealth in order for us to have a transition for our independence, which is going to be like a 10-year transition period. Okay, so yeah, still a trivia for you. Now this book, I really enjoyed it. You know, it's great for me to read historical fiction books that are set in my country, Philippines, and I really hope that this book gets to be shared more to people. I really encourage folks to read it. It's quite short, and I think Johnny is going to learn a little bit more about the Philippines when he gets to read Bone Talk by Candy Gourlay. Now, another book that I'm going to be recommending him, it is kind of like set in Afghanistan. It is a recent, well, not so recent, I read it in July of 2020, this year. And that is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. Now this follows the story of 2 boys, Amir and his friend, his childhood friend, and then Amir and his dad, you know, gets an opportunity to move to America, which they had, you know, he and his friend kind of had to be separated, and kind of something happens along the way, and then kind of like in order for him to, you know, redeem himself for his friend and, you know, like make ends meet or make amends. Yeah, I believe that's what you call it. He goes back to Afghanistan to be able to adopt his friend's son. So it's very, you know, I first read this, I was like, okay, and then when I reread it, I appreciate it a lot more. That's why rereads are actually like a wonderful thing. And I think, like, based on the my reading experience, my rereading experience to be specific, I think Johnny is gonna discover a lot more of what it's like during the time, earlier decades, living in the Middle East, specifically in Afghanistan. And I think that is one of the things that he might be interested in knowing more about, you know, of course. So, and then also I would like to recommend him. Now, definitely this is a recent read. I read this for Readables Book Club, which is hosted by some of our booktubers, Ray Reads BH, and also during their live show for this one, it was Ray Reads BH and Reading Slump Journey, aka Dre. Now, I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and I think Johnny would be interested in like knowing more about history, and you know, I think this would be a way for him to discover more about World War II. And the thing that is interesting for me, because usually when I hear about World War II, I think about what happens or what happened in Germany or in Poland, and to me this in a manner, there's something fresh about it for my, reading experience, because this is set in France. So I think that if Johnny's going to be reading this one, he gets to know more about the history of France, more than, of course, Paris being the city of love, Eiffel Tower. He gets to know about what happens during the 1940s, about how the World War II happened there. This is a story about two sisters who played different roles in being able to let France free from Germany. It's very heart-wrenching. My heart was crushed. I don't know, I think Johnny might feel a lot of emotions when he gets to read this book, and I hope he's gonna love it. Like, that's the reason why I love it. I think he's gonna be afraid, but I think I would still recommend this to him, because I think it's a way for him to kind of like explore other places and know more about the world, which would be fun for him. And the last, but definitely not the least, now this person, gosh, he's the ultimate bias. Okay, he's my ultimate bias for NCT. This dude is flexible, quirky, awesome, funny, but he's just so cool and like hip. And honestly, that teaser for Resonance, yo, listen up. You better listen, because this guy is really awesome and kind of, at times stutters, kind of like me. Rambles, but that's what, makes him lovable. That's why we stand Mark Lee in this house. So yes, Mark Lee is the ultimate bias of louisity in NCT. Yeah, that rhyme. Hoorah! Anyway, so I also read, some tweets, and also have looked into some videos as well about Mark reading books. Actually, if you folks have been tuning in my channel, The Alchemist, the book that I plan to reread, this dude read it kind of recently at the time, or quite, within the period that I decided to reread it. That's why I reread it. Yeah, so I was amazed when I saw that update that he was asking about The Alchemist, and he's kind of reading it, and kind of it's pretty good, and I really hope that he enjoyed it. And if that is the case, I'm going to be recommending him, because The Alchemist has a lot of wise words, some thoughts or quotes that will make you contemplate about life, circumstance, and achievements and purpose. So I'm going to be recommending him Tuesdays with Morrie, written by Mitch Albom. Now this is, some people, it may be considered as a biographical novel if you kind of read, Paulo Coelho's books. But this is more tagged as a nonfiction. This happens to be, Mitch's, from the title itself, Tuesdays with Morrie. Mitch, spent his Tuesdays with Morrie. He gets to learn about life, about purpose as well, things. And I think that this book will, add some more, knowledge. It's going to make him contemplate some insights, which, can be very helpful for his songwriting. I think that's what's going to be amazing about it. And yeah, and I reread this, actually the second time that I reread it, which in most cases, when I reread books, it is when that, it really hits you a lot harder and gives you a better reading experience. That's the benefit of rereading. Gotta take note of that, y'all. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be recommending him Tuesdays with Morrie, because I think it will be helpful for his mind, his emotions, his soul, and it can translate to his rap pen, with jock pen. I just inserted jock pen. And I also saw that video where he read I Am Number 4 when he was younger. Although I haven't read it, I think he could still be interested in some young adult. And for some reason, I just want to recommend him something a little bit different, like a paranormal fantasy. Okay, try to guess what paranormal fantasy am I going to recommend, Mark Lee? Well, you know, I don't know what you folks were thinking, but if it's that popular one, the one with vampires, no. I'm going to be recommending him the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. Now the first one is Fallen, and then Torment, and then Passion, and then Rapture. Now this follows the story of Lucy, who is, gets to meet the boy, who happens to be kind of different and unusual, who apparently is a fallen angel. So that's kind of like the gist of it. It's been years since I read this, and I'm thinking about rereading it. I'm hoping that I would still enjoy it. If not, I would love it a lot more. But yeah, this is one of the book series that I love, because it's, when I read it, I was kind of like in the zone, and the visuals were, or rather, the pages were written in a way that the pictures were vivid. And it's not like I kind of like was there and I'm able to see and understand what was happening. I think that's what affects one's reading experience. Now, my favorite would have to be Passion, because there's a lot of like time traveling, and I think when Mark reaches this third book, he's gonna enjoy it, and he's up for the ride. And after reading Fallen, he can watch, of course, the movie version and see what he thinks of it and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna be recommending him the Fallen series, written by Lauren Kate. Feel free to comment down below your recommendations for Hatchin, Tail, Ten, Johnny, or Mark, if you have any recommendations for them. And also feel free to comment which member would you like me to give recommendations to. And so yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed this video. If you, by the way, reach up to this point, feel free to put in a microphone emoji. So yes, here I am, raving about NCT. Now, we all know the concept is that they're going to be having unlimited members. Well, who knows if that's going to change, but for now I don't think it will. And who knows, maybe this video series will continually be done, as long as, of course, there's NCT members, or I can perhaps, reshuffle. We'll see. So yeah, feel free to share your suggestions below. So I guess that's about it. If you folks like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And I'll be putting down the links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. Now with Twitter and Instagram, that's where I rave about NCT every now and then. I'll be liking and raving a little bit. At least to me, I guess it was a little bit of raving. Yeah, anyways, as always, thank you super much for watching. Let us keep in our minds and hearts to be loving and kind. As what Mark Lee said, always be thankful. And as I say, unleash the reader in you. Bye y'all.